most marginalized populations, one of which is the LGBT community. And the reason why we use the law primarily because we do have a constitution that protects human rights for each and every individual in the country. So we're essentially using an already existing law to justify why people's rights should be protected. And while using the law I think, in my opinion, as an activist, I think that legal aid, cases pertaining to legality are easier to be won because you just bring them to court for mention and a court or a judge decides in favor or not in favor. But the bigger issue for us as activists is the issue of attitude change. Because the law or the courts of law might declare, for example, homosexuality legal in the country, but does that mean attitude change has been influenced? Maybe not. Court cases cannot not necessarily influence how people are going to act towards LGBT individuals. So primarily, we want to see, as an organization, how we can move beyond using the law and how we can use our skills and our brains to figure out how to deal with the other social problems that the LGBT community faces and other marginalized groups face. So we do quite a bit of partnerships with other organizations that are doing like-minded work. We take up projects like PIFLAG because it's not necessarily a legal thing, but it's going to have such a larger impact amongst families, but also among the LGBT community and among the society in general. So we want to move beyond using the law to promote LGBT rights and other rights of marginalized groups to dealing with the other social problems that are, if we're being honest, much harder to fight.
Can you talk a little bit about both the courts and then the attitude change? In what ways do you work with the courts and how important is that to you? Do you think it's effective?
Yeah, the courts of law are very effective because, like I had said before, our constitution is very clear. Each and every Ugandan is protected by under the constitution. And I wish we lived in a country where we don't have to fight for rights that are already enshrined in the constitution. But unfortunately, the environment doesn't allow for people to enjoy their rights, be it to freedom of association, privacy, and all these other rights that are inherent to each and every individual. So we have a government or like an environment that doesn't allow for, like I said, people to really enjoy these rights. Parliament would rather legislate against these rights than have a group of citizens that is empowered enough to speak for themselves and to enjoy these human rights. So I think it's important that we make sure that the court declares or decides and interprets these rights as being inherent to all Ugandans. It's important to have court cases that rule in favor of the rights of marginalized groups, one of which is the LGBT community. That was the other question.
Then I kind of want to talk about in what ways do you work with lawmakers and other people in the government to change attitudes?
So our lawmakers, unfortunately, have been put in a position where they have to interpret the constitution. They have a duty to protect the constitution. They have a duty to uphold the constitutional values. But we have members of parliament who would rather use political leverage to legislate against some of these human rights that they feel will be in favor of the majority. So, just to give you an example, when we're lobbying and advocating with members of parliament to scrap off the anti-homosexuality law, like most of the MPs back home knew it's unconstitutional. Like they know all the provisions are unconstitutional, but they still legislated and finally passed it. And we used to ask why. Why would you legislate and pass a law that is clearly unconstitutional? That if we take to court will be repealed. Like why? And it's simple. You know, they are failing to deal with other social issues. They are failing to deal with corruption. They are failing to deal with unemployment of youth. They are failing to deal with sorry state that our health centers are in. So they pick something that will distract people from their failure to provide these services. Something that people can talk about with excitement and forget, you know, everything else. So some of these laws they bring up, like the anti-homosexuality law, were really a distraction more than anything, you know. And it's unfortunate, like I said before, that a group of lawmakers that are supposed to uphold the Constitution choose to take up some of these campaigns for political mileage rather than protecting the rights of their constituents.
We can cut cameras for a second. You guys can